Welcome to On the Agenda. I'm Bong-kil. Northeast Asia is a region that is seeing growing importance both geopolitically and economically, especially as the world faces mounting global challenges such as countering terrorism. As changes unfold rapidly in this region and the rest of the world, we examine what path Korea should take in such times of transformation and development. Joining us in the studio is Ambassador Shin Bong-kil, the president of the Institute of Foreign Affairs and National Security, IFANS, at Korea National Diplomatic Academy.
Leaders from around the world adopted a statement on the fight against terrorism in a recent G20 meeting held in Turkey. The declaration reaffirms their solidarity against heinous attacks and cracking down on the financing channels of terrorism. President Park Geun-hye also denounced the acts of aggression and vowed to step up legal measures to cut off terrorist funds.
테러리즘은 새로운 양상으로 계속 진화하며 국경을 초월하여 수많은 사람들의 삶과 기본 가치를 위협할 뿐만 아니라 세계의 평화와 안전을 저해하는 국제사회의 암적 존재가 되고 있다고 강조하셨습니다.
President Park also spoke on the issue of North Korea's nuclear program, which also remains a key challenge to global security. She pledged to support infrastructure development in Northeast Asia, including North Korea, which would mount to roughly $63 billion annually, if Pyongyang agrees to denuclearize and open up the country. This all being an extension of commitments to enhance cooperation in Northeast Asia in last month's three-way summit meeting among Korea, China, and Japan. Many countries in Asia continue to see robust growth, becoming the engine for the global economy. Especially Northeast Asia accounts for roughly 20% of the world economy, with its influence growing by the day. However, the region still faces the so-called Asian paradox, which refers to the disconnect between growing economic interdependence on the one hand and backward political security cooperation on the other. This is why there is the growing need for multilateral and pan-government cooperation with less emphasis on one-on-one framework. And as the demand for mutual assistance in Northeast Asia becomes more evident, Korea faces the question of what role it should play within the region. We sit down with Shin Bong-kil, president of the Institute of Foreign Affairs and National Security, to gain more insight about pressing issues on global security and where Korea should be headed on the diplomatic front.
Welcome to On the Agenda, President Shin. We are so pleased to have you here today, but I'm afraid we have to begin with a very sad news and great concern, which is the spread of global terrorism, as illustrated in the terrible incident in Paris. What do you make of this global terrorism on the rise, and how countries like South Korea have to prepare for this change in global politics?
Yes, I'm also very much shocked to hear this news, and this is a real common challenge to humanity. As G20 top leaders has already expressed, the world has condemned this heinous crime as an unacceptable thing. Nobody can accept this kind of crime, whatever its motive. Even though this IS has said that their kind of argument, but I think cannot be accepted. And I think this is the first time top leaders of the world has, in one voice, condemned very strongly this terror, and also they reaffirmed their resolution that whatever means they will fight this terrorist act. And Korea, President Park Geun-hye participated in this G20 meeting, also joined this G20 statement. And I think Korea also will do its best to join in our solidarity, to show our solidarity in this fight against
Korea
terrorism.
acting as a very responsible international player in this effort. You correctly point out that the leaders participating in the recent G20 summit meeting held in Turkey issued a joint statement, as I read it, a statement on the fight against terrorism, saying that we condemn in the strongest possible terms the heinous terrorist attacks in Paris and in Ankara, and they are unacceptable affront to all humanity. And the fight against terrorism is a major priority for all of our countries, and we reiterate our resolve to work together to prevent and suppress terrorist acts through increased international solidarity and cooperation. So as correctly pointed out, there is a spirit of solidarity and a commitment to cooperation. But some people may say that it would not last long because individual countries must have different priorities. So as long as the countries do not receive the direct attack by global terrorist groups, then they may be still reserved to make the best effort in fight against terrorism. What do you see in the future about international solidarity and cooperation?
Well, I agree with you that actually it is not easy to unite all these countries at the same level of force to fight this terrorism. But I think this is somewhat different. After 9/11, this anti-terrorism is a main security concern of international society. And with this pari terrorism, I think it strengthened the countries' resolve that this is not just one country's problem, and it should be solved all the countries together. But one thing is that actually, this G20 statement also said that tackling the financing channels of terrorism as one way of effective way of tackling this terrorism. But we should think about the root causes of this terror. Why this kind of things happen, and how come IS? This is just an entity, and can fight against such a big powers like the United States and France, and still maintains its entity. We should very seriously think about it. Some say about the clash of civilization, but it's simply to say this is a clash of civilization is not correct. But certainly there will be some element of this kind of thing. And I personally think that there are, it's very sad that there are many in around the world who feel they are marginalized and who are discontented with all the development of this world. I may say it's a crisis of liberal democracy, maybe.
Crisis of liberal
democracy. This, at the end of history, the famous book written by the Francis Fukuyama, the present Stanford University's professor. He declared in 1992, after the demolition of the East European countries and Soviet Union, that the liberal democracy finally won. And this is the end of all the development of history. But we see that liberal democracy has many problems at the moment, some even in the United States. And this is a system for just 1%. So I think this is not an easy question. It's, even though this IS is a really very peculiar phenomenon, we cannot simply say this is a bad guy or something like that. There are many more root causes. And how could we solve this kind of crisis of liberal democracy? And this is very important.
Some people still insist that what's going on in the Middle East is not really directly making an impact on countries like South Korea or the region of Northeast Asia. So the attitude toward this problem of spread of global terrorism may be quite different from countries that have been suffering from that direct assault of the global terrorist groups and the countries away from the Middle East. And among many important achievements that you have made as a Korean diplomat, you worked as a representative of Korean government in Jordan in the past. Is there some misunderstandings that Asian countries like South Korea has about the Middle East?
I personally think that South Korea's image in Middle East is rather good. We were more involved in construction and not demolishing or antagonizing them.
Okay.
So, but still, we cannot say that South Korea is exempt from all these terrorist attack, and we should be prepared to all this kind of thing can happen in South Korea or in Korean people around the world. I think this is really a serious matter, and the government is doing also their utmost measures to prevent unfortunate things happen to Korean people around the world and even in Korea. And I know that the government is thinking of making anti-terrorist law and also other measures to more strictly screen the going of foreigners. But I think that this is really an unfortunate story.
Let's move on from a very pessimistic analysis of the current global affairs to something very uplifting and positive. You worked as the first General Secretary of the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat among South Korea, Japan, and China. And witnessing the trilateral summit meetings among South Korea, Japan, China taking place recently in Seoul, you must have had this very mixed feelings and thoughts about your contributions to this fruition of the long-standing effort. What was your response and reactions to the trilateral summit meetings?
Trilateral cooperation is a regional cooperation mechanism, regional cooperation regime among China, Japan, and Korea. It has regular summit meetings and also almost 20 ministerial level meetings. And also it has a permanent secretariat in Seoul, Korea. So we can say this trilateral cooperation is already quite institutionalized, and these three countries are quite integrated actually. Last 3 years, unfortunately, because of a bickering with regard to the history issues and also territorial issues, the trilateral summit meeting couldn't be held. And I'm very relieved to see that this time it held in Seoul. And during this process, Korea actually has contributed a lot, and Korea tried to persuade China, and it was successful. And China actually used this holding trilateral summit as a kind of leverage to put pressure on Japan. So it was rather difficult, not easy job. But President Park Geun-hye actually, even though there was some concern, but participated this September Victory Day ceremony, military parade in China.
Right.
And one of the important aim is to see showing up there and then let the Chinese to come to Seoul to participate in the trilateral summit meeting.
I mean, you must be very moved to see the so-called the brainchild of your effort.
Yes.
To actually
yes.
taking place in Seoul after a long hiatus for 3.5 years.
That's right.
I mean, congratulations on
Thank you
your
very
effort.
much.
Korea, China, and Japan have seen an expansion in areas covered by free trade deals. Seoul has 49 trade pacts in effect, Beijing has 20, and Tokyo has 17 in place. With mega trade deals such as the TPP and RCEP receiving more attention, hopes are on the rise for a three-way trade pact among Korea, China, and Japan.
And because of this successful summit meetings among three major Northeast Asian countries, China, Japan, and South Korea, not only these countries are strategically important, but also they are major trading countries in the world economy. So in the aftermath of very successful trilateral summit meetings in Seoul, then people are now talking about conclusions of bilateral and multilateral free trade agreements, such as South Korea possibly joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership or completion of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP in short. What do you estimate the prospect for these talks on free trade agreement to actually be completed in near future?
I think FTA is not only important for the common prosperity in the region, but it is actually very important for the regional integration and regional stability. Actually, 3 countries had negotiations for a couple of years, 8-round talks, and still looks like it's a long way to go because there is a sensitive issue of opening up the agricultural sector and also level of liberalization of commodities. And with these issues, there are still some gaps between the 3 countries. And as far as I understand, Japan asks a very high level of liberalization, comparable to that of TPP. But China actually is not prepared, and also Korea and Japan is not prepared to 100% open this agricultural market. But 3 countries all agree that we need a trilateral FTA concluded as soon as possible. Particularly after TPP was agreed, China is more eager to resolve this trilateral FTA as soon as possible.
Speaking of the initiatives taken by South Korea and China and Japan for a higher level of global integration or joint projects, we have to mention the recent discussions made between South Korean President Park Geun-hye and Chinese President Xi Jinping about connecting South Korea's Eurasia initiatives and China's vision of One Belt, One Road to promote more economic cooperation and joint projects.
中国只会越来越开放。
여러 나라의 비전과 계획을 서로 공유하고 이를 뒷받침하는 인프라 프로젝트들이 상호 유기적으로 추진될 때 비로소 실현 가능할 것입니다.
What is your thought on the probability of connecting these 2 grand visions by South Korea and China?
Actually, this Eurasia initiative and the One Belt, One Road project have the same vision with different names. And the core of the Eurasia initiative of South Korea is connecting actually the railroad between the south and north. And if this railroad is connected, people can move from Seoul, from Busan, all the way through Pyongyang and then Vladivostok. And using this Siberian railway, it can reach to vast areas of the Eurasia land. And originally, this One Belt, One Road scheme is going westward from the Chang'an, the Xi'an.
Right.
But once this One Road and One Belt scheme can be connected with the Eurasia initiative, and this means that this One Belt and One Road, this big vision can expand to the east and towards the Manchurian region and including North Korea. Then we may use this AIIV fund together, and I think this will make a synergy between the 2 big visions.
Right. The synergy of the 2 visions may go not only westward, as in Chinese vision of One Belt, One Road, but also eastward toward the Asia Pacific, as proposed by South Korea's vision. And on a personal note, I learned that this summer you were actually on the Eurasia Friendship Express train. My first question is whether it was comfortable and fast, right? And what does it tell you about the future of connecting these 2 visions?
Well, actually, I had a rare kind of luck to ride this Eurasia Special Express train. And I actually took the train from Irkutsk, and I arrived in Moscow. And I rode this train almost 100 hours.
100 hours.
And a really exciting experience. And it was okay. It was not so uncomfortable. And when I heard it 10 years ago, it was really difficult to see weeks of travel there. And one thing I felt is, we have still spacious areas still not be explored and need development. I was very much impressed.
Let's move on to talk about another area of troubles, which is South China Sea.
Yes.
It is not a secret anymore that China's position and its claims of territorial waters in South China Sea are in direct collision with the position of the United States, which emphasize the principle of the freedom of navigation. And the construction of man-made islands by China these days did not help alleviate the tension in the South China Sea. What do you see the overall situation that the tension between China and the United States in South China Sea, and what kind of recommendations for South Korean government for appropriate policy response to the situation?
Well, South China Sea is very important for Korea too, because many of Korean energy resources, oil, is transported through this South China Sea lane. Actually, this is a very sensitive issue, and this is related with the rise of China and the assertiveness of Chinese diplomacy, and also United States and Japan's response to counter this kind of assertive Chinese hegemonic attitude of China. I think that in one part, China also should behave more prudently, that their act cannot be seen as a threat to neighboring countries, like particularly the small countries like Vietnam and Malaysia, Philippines, and they directly may feel a threat. And also from the US side, recently I met a very interesting person who used to be a Supreme Commander of NATO forces in Brussels. And he was dean of the Fletcher School, Mr. Stavridis. He is a four-star admiral. And he told me that this reclaiming of island by China tantamount to launching hundreds of aircraft carrier in South China Sea. His argument is that the surface of one aircraft carrier is around 5 acres. 5 acres. Right. And this reclaimed area, and it is almost 3,500 acres. Okay. And if it is used as a military purpose, then it amounts to hundreds of aircraft carriers launching there. So it's decisively demolishing the balance of power there. That was his argument. Anyway, I think it's very sensitive for us. Whatever, it's not easy to make a position toward this issue. But I think Korean government has already said that this issue should be solved peacefully and on the basis of international law and practice. So I think that is our basic position toward this issue.
But it seems like the Obama administration of the United States wants far more than that from its ally, South Korea. I was really alarmed by listening to the joint press conference after the summit meeting in Washington between President Park Geun-hye and President Obama, that in rare occasions, President Obama explicitly said that in response to the question from the US media that we want China to respect international law and norms in South China Sea. And if China fails, then we want South Korea to join the voice.
Well, I think that in a sense, we are the same position, that every country involved in this area, in this issue, should respect international law and practice. And the problem is that even the countries involved interpret the international law differently. And this is a difficult question. And I think this should be, we really need countries involved should restrain themselves and should solve this issue peacefully. And that is, I think, Korean government position.
What would you say to the thriving young South Koreans who has this aspiration to follow your footsteps as a career diplomat? The motto of the Korea National Diplomatic Academy is prepare nation's future. Right? I believe there's a lot of young South Koreans who would be part of this endeavor to prepare nation's future. What kind of advice would you like to share with young aspiring South Koreans?
It is anyway very encouraging that many elite South Korean youngsters want to join the foreign ministry. And Korea has become one of the leading country in the world. So it's much different. When I joined the foreign ministry, Korea was still a developing country, and even though we worked hard as a diplomat, we couldn't get much attention and we couldn't get much achievement there. But now Korea is one of the possibly top 10 countries in the world. Then I think it will be really big kind of challenge for Korean youngsters to do this kind of job and representing Korea around the world. And I think it's very encouraging for us senior diplomat that such a talented youngsters would like to join the Korean Foreign Ministry.
Right. President Shin, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience on important matters today.
It was my pleasure. Very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now is set to be a crucial juncture for countries in Northeast Asia as the dynamic region continues to go through a whirlwind of changes. In the face of this all, countries will have to work towards mutual cooperation and find common ground in order to seize the opportunity of joint growth and prosperity. I'm Bong-kil. Thanks for watching.